I'm starting to feel more and more strongly that Thanksgiving dinner should be at least a quarterly thing.
Sarah for mayor. Sometimes all I want out of life is a nice bowl of chips and salsa.
I hear that, sister. Hey, remember when social media was fun?
Mm-mm.
Me either.
Got accosted by a wild turkey, then swam with the dolphins. In the wise words of Jane Fonda circa 1982, no pain, no gain.
Jane knows it. Have such a good day. Hello, world. Welcome back to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants you to do just that. It's episode 174.
Indeed,
And I am
it is
Sarah
Lane.
with Heather Frank with me at the helm. I don't actually know what at the helm means, but I assume that we're both at the helm.
I think it's like a ship thing.
It's
like
a
where
ship
you're at
nautical
the helm
thing.
of the ship. Yeah, I believe it's I don't really know the term. I get like confronted with like sailor terminology when I do crossword puzzles because they do those a lot. And I'm like, I don't know what the back of the ship is called.
I know what port and starboard is. I have some
Yeah.
friends who have sailboats and they're like very into sailing. So like I pick up some stuff here and there, but mostly when we go sailing, I'm just holding on for dear life, trying
It's
not to
kind of Greek
die.
to me. Yeah, it is. But I
Yeah.
will say I was on a boat a few days ago in Mexico. It wasn't a sailboat, it was more of a bigger motorboat. And I was bracing myself for getting sick because it would, drive fast, but then it would stop and idle
Are
because we
are
would
you a
stop.
are you a sick boat person?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm like a sick in the back of an
Mm-hmm.
Uber kind of person. I mean, I won't barf, but I like when I was a kid, I used to actually like have to pull over. Like my dad had to pull over and I'd actually puke, but now I just get really nauseous. It's just uncomfortable. But I never
Yeah.
actually get sick. The boat thing is different. So I brought Dramamine, thinking, oh, I'll just, take this. It depends on the boat. And it was interesting because when we were actually driving, I was fine. I mean, I had to sit in the front and I had to look straight ahead and just like watch the water. But when we stopped, because he let us jump in the middle of the ocean, which was kind of scary, he would just kind of idle for a little bit. That was when I started to feel queasy. Me and my friend that I traveled with, we just kept staring at each other like, "Oh, here it comes. Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay?" Like, but
Oh,
it wasn't as bad
really?
as I thought it
Yeah.
would be. So
It's interesting. I've never had seasickness, but I'm very familiar with car sickness. I don't really have it anymore. It's something that I guess I grew out of, weirdly. I
I
mean, I
think that
can
you can
read in
grow
the
out of
car
that
now,
stuff for
and I don't
sure.
even care. But I used
Ugh,
to
I'm
not
so
even be able to sit
jealous.
in the back seat. Yeah, but on a boat, it's never been an issue for me. Even if it's pitching quite a bit, and I'm like, I'm pretty uncomfortable right now. I'm
Yeah.
not nauseous. So I don't know. Small victories.
I get like travel sickness, like even like flying back on Sunday, I felt kind of queasy for a couple days because it was a long trip and we had some rough, plane rides that like the queasiness kind of held on for a little while. I don't have it anymore, but I
Mm.
was like, man, this is some serious travel sickness. But if you guys are tuning in for the first time, this is the show
Yes, yeah. Who
that
are we,
we
Heather?
we
Why
who
are we
the heck
here?
are we? We're two little ladies. This is the small and mighty team have such a good day. Sarah and myself, the show that likes to unpack the absurdity of everyday life for hopefully your and our entertainment. How y'all doing out there? I'd love to hear from any of you who currently live in California or were in California the last 2 weeks because I'm the asshole who left California for the precise 2 weeks of time that we had a very big atmospheric rivers, what they call it. Huge, huge storms all across California. In fact, I had to weather some of it with what was happening at my properties because we had trees fall. It was pretty wild. And I will say, I felt guilty. I felt really good. I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know a storm was going to hit us. It's not like I planned it, but I did leave
Well,
literally
but
the
even if you
day that it
did
hit.
know, like it's not like you did it.
Well, no, no, of course, but I felt guilty because I was gone for 2 solid weeks and I left
Oh,
the
I see.
day that
Yeah.
the storm hit. And like there was a lot of shit that happened. Like there was a lot of stuff that my people had to deal with because I wasn't here. So anyway,
Totally.
I
Yeah.
now the birds are chirping, the sun's out, and I feel
I
like I brought
actually
the
hear the
sun back.
birds.
You do.
Okay, Snow White over there. Jesus, Heather.
I'm just zippity
Yeah,
doo dying up here in NorCal.
and for anybody who's listening who happens to be in the Northern California area, by the time you listen to this, it may have gotten better or worse.
Yeah.
We're hopefully getting out of the worst of what was a pretty crazy storm all throughout
Hmm.
California, and really the Pacific Northwest as well. So yeah, hope everybody's safe and warm and drying out. And if you're not drying out, you've got great galoshes and a good, solid,
Good
sturdy hat.
umbrella. Yeah. And if you
That
guys have
too.
any stories, please email us at hi@havesuchagooddday.com. I got stories, but I do want to say that I hope everybody's safe. It was a little scary. I will say I was slightly envious of the lightning storms. I was down in sunny Mexico and hearing these stories about these wild, like there was like
Oh, they
lightning like
were
all day. I
absolute.
love lightning and I missed it. I missed it.
Well, I don't hate lightning. However, so I've probably explained this before. I have a very strange sleeping situation where I sleep in I don't know, like my tiny little apartment. Oh, my little tree house. I love it so. But
Mhm.
where my bed is, there's sort of almost like a dropped ceiling right above the bed itself, even though the
Mhm.
ceiling in the rest of my house is like quite a large A-frame.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so the drop ceiling above my bed, but there's also a skylight in that ceiling, which is rad. Like you go to bed, on a sun or not a sunny night, but a starry night.
Mhm.
Maybe the moon's out. You see a shooting star, and you're just like looking up above your head. Pretty cool.
Amazing.
It's unparalleled.
Mhm.
However, during a lightning storm, when you're like, oh, okay, it's time for bed.
And you're in the middle of the woods?
I'm just gonna go ahead and like put on some comfy PJs and, get into bed and just, maybe like lay on my back and just sort of like look up at the stars. And then there's like a crazy lightning bomb, and then thunder that happens a few seconds later. And then that happens for the next 30 to 45 minutes.
Mhm.
Slightly jarring.
You're like, "Nope, nope.
I felt like I
I
was
could do
like in
without
like a
this."
Stanley Kubrick movie where it was like, how much can Sarah take before before she just has to put her eye pillow on and like turn over.
Speaking of shooting stars, I saw one of the. It's so interesting how every time I've seen a shooting star, I know this sounds weird, but you look up just for a second and you see it, and the other person doesn't, and you're like, oh my god, I just looked up. But I
Yeah.
saw one on the beach in Mexico, and it looked like a comet. It was huge. I've never seen such a big shooting star before, but it felt like one of those cheesy magical moments where you're like, I was supposed to see that, and you feel like it was just there for you. And but they are magical. I mean, it is always exciting to see a shooting star. It's like seeing a rainbow, it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, the earth is magical and there's beautiful things out there. It's a friendly reminder.
It is. It is. And as a space hater, which I like wink, wink. Like, I don't really hate space. I just don't want to go there.
Mm.
I like to look at space. That's all I want to do with space. Space and I have a spatial relationship. We are good. But yes, a shooting star is, it
Space is your
is sort of.
nemesis.
I just don't want to be in it.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
want to
you
be
are.
here.
You have to accept the fact that you are in the universe. You're not
No, I
floating out
know,
in the
but it's like,
blackness of
but
space,
there's
but
there's just there. I don't know. There are so many people who are so ready to be like, let's get on another planet and see how we make it work. And I'm like, but like Earth is so like, how many places you been on Earth and you
but
already want to leave?
I will say, I think people are either like if you did a poll, with your friends. You may find that like, yeah, one person is very space person, the other person's very ocean person. But when I was on that boat and I was in the middle of the ocean where I could
You
barely see
wanted to go to
land,
space.
it made me feel very uncomfortable. So I
Mm.
think I would feel the same in space. I'm fascinated by space and I'm fascinated by what's under the water. But when you see a whale pop up, 20 feet from your boat, and you just saw Pinocchio, it's that can be scary too.
Had you just watched
I literally
Pinocchio?
just saw Pinocchio, no joke.
Okay.
I
All right. I'm
swear.
like,
I
that's a
did.
very specific scenario that Heather's
And it was the new
describing.
the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio, which has a
Oh,
darkness to
right.
it. But you know the story of
Uh-huh.
Pinocchio and the whale. I'm not gonna,
Yeah,
no
I actually
spoilers,
don't like
but
that story very much,
no,
to be honest.
nope.
There are a lot of Disney stories where I'm like, it's very problematic, for a
This is a
variety
good
of
one though. I actually
reasons.
thought this Pinocchio was it because it's claymation and it's so well
Oh,
done. I
okay.
mean, it's just like it's cool to watch it just for like the animation. But
Hmm.
it's a good movie. It's well written, and I think it's worth seeing. So, how's everything been going, Lanes?
Well, Heather, I mean, I never want to make this podcast about, Sarah's health journey because it's a big
It
old
is called Have Such a Good
shit
Day.
sandwich. It is, yes.
Maybe
I'm
we should
having such a
change the
good day.
title.
Trust me, never better. But
Eat your shit
but
sandwich.
yeah, eat it. Yeah, like what would that be made of? Don't even want. Don't want to think about it. But especially because I have ground beef to eat for dinner later. Yuck. But
Yuck.
yeah. Speaking of ground beef, I am definitely on. I'm obviously going through chemotherapy right now. Anybody who listens to the show knows that already. I am now. Um, just now 3 sessions down of 4, which means that I'm almost done. I only have one more. Now, that no one has said to me, hey, and this is, tried and true, we'll never change our minds. There might be, a variety of things that I have to do after this. They could say, well, you need more chemo. Here's the radiation thing. Maybe neither of those things. But what I'm holding on to right now is that I'm almost done with something that has been extremely difficult, and I'm really, really happy about that. And what's funny is that it depends on the day that you catch me on, and I think that there are a lot of, I don't know, physical, mental, or hybrid versions of this story that, could be cancer or something else, where somebody would be like, I had a really bad day yesterday, but today I'm better, or vice versa, right? Like
Yep.
yesterday I felt really good and today I don't.
Yeah.
And that is just sort of the reality of my situation right now. And that has been kind of problematic for me because I have a job. Well, I have, I'm a freelancer, so I mean, I have several jobs, I have a life, I have a personal life, I have family, I have friends, I have, things that I have to do. I have chores and errands. And we all have up days and down days. And I think that being a person who I think I traverse that stuff more or less pretty well, on any given day. I have had a hard time with that
Yeah.
over the last couple of months, and to the point where I, I don't really know how else to say it except that the highs and the lows they've been spiky, and that can sometimes be really hard.
Yeah.
And maybe not even just for me, but like people around me. It's
Sure.
like, you might have a bad day and the next day you're like, boy, that was not a good day.
Yeah.
Like that was not a good day. And there's certainly a lot of personal responsibility to take from that. There's also, some grace to give yourself,
Yes, of course.
when you're going through tough stuff. So, just these are things are swimming in my mind at all
Yeah,
times.
this is your day-to-day reality. So it's number one, thank you for sharing, and I think everybody would say the same. It's a hard thing to share about what you're going through day to day, and and I'm not blowing smoke, but I know I'm not there every second, but I'm proud of you. I feel like you've been a real trooper, and I know you've had bad days, but you still have an air of optimism. You're very you're strong. You're strong. I mean, I know that it's hard, and I wish that I could make it less hard. But I'm impressed with how composed and your head seems to be screwed on straight, and I applaud you. And you are at the end, and I mean you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that must feel great.
Yes, it does. And I'm going to lean into that as long as I can until someone tells me different.
Yes, you
But
should. You
that's
should.
But yeah, that's kind of the update, on my life. I wish I could tell you, oh, and this other really cool, interesting, non-cancer related thing happened to me, but I'll just be honest with y'all. That's kind of all I think about. All I want to do is just get through this period, and then like my life comes back to me.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, life doesn't go away, of course. I mean, I'm still alive, but there's I'm very excited for the next era,
Yeah, for the
my
next
new
chapter.
pro era.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be great. And the thing is when your health is in, a bad place, it's kind of hard to think about something else. And I think that's people, everybody would understand that, it's like, yeah, it's like the center of your universe. It's like there's nothing else matters, until you feel
Well,
better, until
also,
you're
there's
better.
no like time to
No,
think about anything else. Like
no.
somebody will ask me something that is fairly trivial, and I'm like, I'll get back to you never.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even trying to be rude. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm at Kaiser right now. Like
Yeah.
I'm, like talking to like oncology people, or like getting a CT scan or something. It's like
Yeah.
you just kind of have to like prioritize things and hope that, they work themselves out sooner than later.
Yeah, it's interesting how, I was talking to my sister about, and this is not the best like analogy, but we've talked about this on the show. When you lose a family of someone you love, like I lost my parents the last couple years, and
Mm-hmm.
there's people that totally know what to say, know how to communicate with you. And then there's people who don't and don't understand because they haven't been, and it's hard. It's hard to
100%.
navigate the world when not everybody totally understands and doesn't know what to say. They mean well, but it's got to be frustrating,
Mm-hmm.
when people don't say the right thing. And yeah, I
Well, it's
totally
very easy to
can
take it
imagine.
personally.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be like, whoa, I'm not like worth something better from you.
Yeah.
Because you're like taking all of that, you're making it all about you,
Yeah.
when it really is about the person not having the, tools to necessarily deal with something that is so monumental that they don't want to say or do the wrong thing, or they
Yep.
just don't even have those feelings inside their own bodies because they haven't gone through it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like this is such a huge conversation. We
It
could go
is.
on and on about it. But yeah, I really do think the more that many of us either experience sort of traumatic events, or
Mhm.
traumatic events within our families or our friends or both, or all three, that we become more compassionate as we get older.
I think so for sure. I totally think so.
Because
And
how can you not?
yeah, I mean, you can't get through life
That's what you're
unscathed.
gonna gain out of this. Like you're still gonna have a lot of heartache, but you're gonna have a lot of compassion.
Yeah, nobody's living in a Shangri-La, that's for sure.
That is for sure. So yeah, so that's my health update, Heather. But enough about me. You have had quite a whirlwind of life as of late. So yeah, tell us about it.
Speaking of like back to reality, I it's so funny. This isn't the
Back
first time.
to
No, yes,
life.
I know. So it's so funny because I knew you would know that song, and this has happened to me
However
before when I
you
get
want,
back. However, do you need me? And then like in
however.
fact, Sarah, you have to rewatch that video. It's so great. Like the way they dance and like the movement of the video. It's so of that era. It's Soul to Soul, by the way. It was
Soul
very
to soul,
popular
yeah. I mean,
back in our
I don't
teen
want to Google
years.
it, but I'm gonna guess it's like, I don't know, like
Oh, it's so
90,
great. It
like
is,
1990-ish.
let's see. But it's funny because remember how I think you said that you get these earworms, like these songs in your
Oh
head
yeah.
during certain times. And this always is in my head when I'm like kind of facing harsh reality. Um, it, it's
I mean, it's not the worst song to
No, it's a
have
great
as an
song. It's a great
earworm.
song. It
Yeah.
actually makes me feel better about things. But yeah, so I think it was what year was that? Gosh. Let's see, the
I mean,
year.
okay, soul to soul.
Yeah,
Let's
Soul
just
to Soul
I'm just
with
gonna go ahead and
two.
look it up.
I think it was 89. I think it was late 80s.
89. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes
89.
sense.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
so that song has been in my head. And it's a great song. Again, watch the video. It's so great. But yeah, so I basically I have not been gone. I mean, I feel like I've been gone for a while. I was gone for 2 solid weeks. 1 week in Oaxaca and then another week in a small coastal town in southern Mexico called Puerto Escondido. And I hadn't been to any of those places. I've been a fair amount around Mexico in the different corners. It was neat to kind of go to a different area. This Oaxaca was very mountainous, which reminded me a little bit of San Miguel de Allende. It's further south, but it was kind of arid. It had, you know, it wasn't on the beach. I mean, it's far enough away from the beach that it just has more of a
Sure.
mountainous
Yeah.
vibe. And it was interesting because it's not a cosmopolitan town. It's very provincial. It's no Mexico City, but I'm a big fan of Mexico City. Sarah and I actually went to Mexico City together many years ago. It was super fun, and in fact, we weren't planning on stopping in Mexico City, which we had mixed feelings about. But we were like, we're making our trip too complicated. You can't go everywhere, so we skipped it.
Hmm.
But then we missed our flight to Oaxaca because of snow in the United States. It wasn't our fault. I mean, we just missed it. It was just a long enough delay, and we didn't have enough time to get to our connection. And it was one of those long travel days where you're like, oh man, what are we gonna do? We're either gonna like sit at the airport for 10 hours, or we're gonna
Mm.
go into Mexico City because we landed there and we were kind of stuck there, and we're like, let's go to Mexico City and like just because it's only a 20-minute Uber, or yeah, Uber. It's not that far from the airport. And we thought, screw it. Let's go get dinner. It was early enough that we felt that we could have a nice little excursion. And our flight that we rebooked was like later. It was like 24 hours later, basically. So we felt like it was enough time. Anyway,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
actually had a
Yeah.
great little overnighter in Mexico City, went to like our favorite restaurants, just like walked the city. It was great. It
I
was it
love
was a
how you're like,
blessing.
we had 24 hours. We went to
We
all our
walked the
favorite
entire city.
restaurants.
Well, it was actually one favorite restaurant, but it was like the favorite restaurant.
Oh yeah.
And it was
I
it was
mean,
one that you and I went to,
that is a
Lardo.
city to eat well in. My
It is, it
goodness.
is, it is. And it was
Yeah.
nice to kind of get a little bit of Mexico City because Oaxaca was very different. Oaxaca is known for mole. And I've never been like I'm not really,
Mm-mm. There's a
I just don't
chocolatey
eat
thing
mole
that
that
I'm not
much.
totally into.
I'm not sure I
Yeah.
like my savory food to be savory, and there's a little bit of that sweetness because it's chocolate based, but I did get a chance to really try a variety of mole, which is they're not all dark chocolate looking. There's some that are like yellow and orange, like there's a range. And so but after I was there for a week, I was like, okay, I want some traditional Mexican food because a lot of what you get in Oaxaca isn't the typical fare that you might assume
But
you would
like, isn't
have.
it funny that like when you and I think of traditional Mexican food, it's like we're from California,
Oh
so
yeah,
like Mexican
100%.
food, like we grew up on it,
I
but
think of
like
Los Angeles.
that's that. I mean, exactly, exactly. It's
Street
like
tacos,
that's
chips
not
and
what Oaxaca
salsa.
is going to be giving you. Like
No.
Mexico is a big old country with all sorts of regional fare.
Yeah, and it was neat. I mean, it was such a cool regional experience. I mean, we went out of the city center on this little tour in this like textile village, and it was all like artists. There was like candle makers, and it was just it was really it felt super authentic. Got to speak a little bit of Spanish. I wish I would have done a little more Duolingo before I left, but we got by. The person I was traveling with had a better handle on the language, so that was good. But usually I really like to partake in, at least trying, some of the basic stuff, which I did, but I would have liked to have done better. So that was very food related. We had some really interesting like dining experiences. Like we actually went to it's hard to explain, but it was kind of called a dining experience. You go into this, you know, it's not even a cave, but it almost looks like a film set. It's just like this very authentic kind of setting with like clay pots and like a clay oven, and they cook in front of you all on, they have those mortar and pestles that are like all out of stone, and they're like grinding corn in front of
I
you.
love how you're like it's authentic. There's clay pots everywhere.
It's hard to explain. It's a very hard thing to explain. I was actually trying to come up with a way to, because if you see the pictures, you're like, oh, but yeah, it was just they speak in Spanish. They tell you all the food they're serving, and they're grinding the food down right in front of you. It's pretty cool. But what I wanted to mention that really struck me is all the things that I was worried about pre-trip that we talked about before I left
Hmm.
did indeed happen, but it was okay. And the funny thing is you do spend all this time fabricating what can happen, and you worry more about it when you're ahead of it, when you don't even know if it's going to happen. Then it does happen, and then you realize it's okay. You just have to you really have to roll with the punches. And I was actually really proud of myself. I did get like some kind of food poisoning one night. We missed several flights. I left my driver's license in Mexico City. We slept in uncomfortable beds. Like we had, you know, we showed up at our first Airbnb, and there were two guys that just flew in from San Francisco that booked it also. But it was they had a false booking on booking.com. It was a whole thing. But there's fiascos, and you kind of have to like find the humor in it. And I was very
You
proud of
do.
myself. I felt
You
I
do.
wasn't
Yeah.
cranky. I felt like we just solved the problems and we moved on, and it got more comfortable. And I would say the last, we left the crown jewel for the end. We ended up going to this little surf town, very cute. Kind of felt like a cross between I mean, like Burning Man and I don't know, some just early Tulum, like Yucatan kind of vibes, because it's a bit of a party coastal town, but like it's like dirt roads, chickens everywhere,
This is
wild
Puerto Escondido,
turkeys.
right?
Yeah, Puerto Escondido. Yeah, so it's like
Yeah, it's a
it's
surf
rough
town.
around the edges. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
like you still can get like an acai bowl, and it's like it's kind of got this interesting mix of um, wellness versus
Yeah.
chaos. It was neat, and we had this really interesting Airbnb.
Wellness and chaos.
Wellness and
Perfect.
chaos.
It's my kind of town.
That's like what I strive for in life: wellness with a
Yeah,
little
I'm
bit of
like, can I
chaos.
be as healthy as possible, but
Yeah.
give me some chaos.
Throw in a little bit of
Okay? I
chaos.
don't want to be bored.
It's true, and it's a fun environment because there's lots of, how in Mexico, I mean, there's lots of dogs running around, and they don't have leashes on, but they're really friendly, and they seem really happy because they're just
They're
roaming
town
around.
dogs.
They're
Yeah.
kind of, they're like on a mission. They're always running, and their tails are wagging, and they're kind of like, they come in and out of these restaurants, and there's even cats. Like cats will jump on your lap, and there's chickens and goats, and I mean, we saw so many animals. We went on that boat trip. I saw whales and turtles and just schools of dolphins. I mean, It was wild. At least I didn't get kidnapped or mugged or eaten by a shark. But that's sort of like the Reader's Digest version of my trip. There you have it.
Definitely a plus. Man, Reader's Digest. I haven't thought about that in a while.
Remember when
Dang,
they would
is that
sell
even
those at the
around
grocery
still?
store? Like
Remember when
the
people used to
checkout
like
aisle?
collect Reader's
Yes,
Digests?
totally.
So yeah, it's funny when you're talking about dogs and cats. It's like depending on the country that you're in, a
Mhm.
variety of monkeys, um, cows, even
Mhm.
elephants,
Yeah.
may come up
Yep.
and be like, "Hello, would you like to share your breakfast with me?"
Totally.
In fact, I've had a couple not cool encounters with monkeys in India. India, I'm looking at you, Rajasthan. Yeah, really aggressive. We're like, I was like, oh, that was my breakfast. I guess it's yours now.
Like he just
Took
came up and stole it.
took the whole damn tray. Yeah. Well, monkeys are, they're basically people. Like they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
He took my entire
It's like, look,
breakfast. Like
there's a
coffee,
stupid
orange
tourist.
juice,
Yeah.
like quite a few things. Anyway, well, it sounds like you had an adventure, and that's the fun of it, right?
Well, I
That's
will
that's
say,
the
well,
point.
we talked about this in a previous episode, and I was saying like what I really need is just to kick it with a book on a beach somewhere mellow and not move around a lot. This was a little more moving around than I wanted in theory, but then I realized the adventure, is so valuable. The discomfort, the
Hmm.
I feel like we lugged our suitcases a little because we booked it last minute, so that there were some longer itineraries than we would normally have had. But a part of that like pain and suffering is, I don't know, it's like what we talked about is like it sort of adds to the lesson of it all, and you come back feeling like accomplished as opposed to
Hmm.
just staying at a nice resort and like laying on your butt the whole time, because I think that gets boring.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting.
Whenever somebody asks me, like I don't know if we get into like the conversation of travel, like the obvious one is what's the favorite place the best place you've ever been? Where I'm like, okay, hard to quantify that. It totally
Hmm.
depends on what you want, but whatever. But sometimes when people say, well, what's the worst place you've ever been? It's like, I mean, I've been in some places where I'm like, wouldn't want to go back there again. Did not
Yeah.
like that. But I
Yeah.
also feel like it was still enriching because I can say that.
Yes,
Instead of
totally.
just not knowing one way or another, it's like, no, I've been there and here's why I didn't have a good experience, or
Yeah.
here's why I feel like it might not be the right next destination for you. I
Hmm.
don't think you lose. I
No,
mean,
you
well,
don't.
I mean, if you lose a limb or something, then you're losing.
Yeah.
But travel in general, I don't know. I feel like you really only gain.
Well, it's funny too because you come back to, in Mexico, you really need to avoid drinking the water out of the faucet. Like when you're in the shower, you don't want to like drink a lot of the water because it can make you sick. The when we were at the beach location, the roads are like the bottom of creek beds. They're these narrow alleys that are some of them are so treacherous, and you kind of almost can't wear shoes because I mean, we wore flip-flops pretty much the whole time, but you get so dirty. You get so dusty and dirty. And, coming from a place where, I don't know, I guess I wear more shoes and I I don't know if the word is civilized, but like you kind of go to a place that's a little outside your comfort zone, but then you kind of lean into it and it's like really fun and cool and different. And then it's slightly easier being home because you're used to it, and you can drink the water in the shower and not worry about things that you worried about on vacation. But there's something about that makes you feel alive. It's just it throws you into
Yeah,
um a
yeah.
new environment.
Discomfort is
Yeah,
a strange sense of comfort going
it
forward.
is. Yeah, it is.
If that makes any sense.
Mhm.
For the record. And like, let's just call me a superhuman, even though clearly I'm not because I'm like
Yeah,
dying
you
of
are.
cancer right now. I'm not dying, but
Don't
you
say
know,
that.
no, I know. I'm
Take
sorry.
that
I'm
back.
sorry. Knock on wood, everybody. No,
Yeah.
nobody's dying, but I have never subscribed to the whole don't drink the water in Mexico. I have drank so much water in Mexico, never got sick once. You
Well,
know,
aren't
so
you special?
I'm not, do
You
not,
got a stomach of steel.
do what I say, not as I do. Do as I say, not as I do. But no, I just, I don't know.
I
I've
don't
never
know.
cared
I
very
don't know what got
much.
me sick, but I think it was food poisoning because it was like just one of those flash, like overnight kind of sicknesses where you felt better the next day. But the funny thing
Yeah.
was that was the one night we kind of partied. Like I didn't even drink very much on the trip. I actually probably drank less, which was very ironic, because most
Than
people
you
do. They're
would
like
just on
dry
a regular.
January. Yeah, just like drinking wine with dinner. Like I really lost a taste for alcohol, especially mezcal, because we did a mezcal tasting that night before I got sick and I was fine. The whole night I was fine till like midnight. Totally fine. Did not feel one iota of illness.
But then
At
it
like 2
started
in the
to,
morning,
yeah.
it was like all night. And so that's why I think it was food poisoning. But we ate at a nice restaurant. So I don't really know. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was the mezcal, but I couldn't drink
There are
mezcal the rest of the trip.
so many variables,
Yeah.
just travel and yeah, like just funny germs and who
Yep.
knows?
Yep.
Who knows?
Indeed.
Well, so Heather, I had a conversation. I have these conversations periodically, but I had one this morning that made me laugh with a friend who was. I'm going to try to describe this story on a high level because I'm not trying to blow up anybody's spot, but I mean, I wouldn't be anyway. But the idea that you might get added to like a group text or like a
Sure.
WhatsApp, a group
Yep.
text,
Yep.
for example. And, all of a sudden it's sort of like, now you're getting all these messages and it's like, what's
Uh-huh.
this about? And maybe you want to be in it, maybe you don't. And the etiquette of all of that.
Yep.
Now, I am of the mind of like, dude, if it's not super relevant to me, just don't add me because I'm busy and
Yeah.
I don't need my phone going off any more
Yeah.
than it already does. But but it goes a step further. In this particular situation, the WhatsApp group that my friend was being added to without her knowledge or consent was yeah, like something that was like it wasn't like something crazy. It was like a connection tool,
Yeah.
but it was sort of like structured along the lines of okay, so thank you for you are now invited to this group, and you need to like tell everybody a paragraph about yourself, and also like what's like the best advice you've gotten to like help the world recently, where it's like, okay, so hold on a second. So I just got added to this WhatsApp group. This is not me, by the way. This is again adding total. But got added to the WhatsApp group, and now I have an action item
Okay.
where I have to like tell everybody like, hey everybody, I'm Sarah. Here's who I am. And here's like
Here's
the
what I
best
learned.
advice I got recently, like in order to like help the planet. Now helping the planet is a great idea, but stuff like this grinds my gears like nothing else. So when my friend was explaining this to me, I was laughing. I'm like, oh God, I would just like ignore everybody. Like you can't like rope me into things like that and then
Yeah.
demand that I like do something that I don't want to do. But it got me thinking of like, okay, well, the probably the the person who had sort of put this together was trying to create structure around.
Sure.
Okay, let me get a bunch of maybe not like-minded, but like cool people together that I care about, and we can start some sort of cool discourse about the world. That's fine, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But you've got the people who love structure, and then you have the people who are more on the other side of the spectrum, like me, where I'm like, can we just like not like go around the room and like say something nice about the birthday
we just
girl?
wing
Like,
it?
could we just like not do that? I mean, I'm here. Like too much structure makes me crazy.
Yeah.
But I also am a person who misses flights and is, chronically late to things. So it's like, I'm not saying that structure is a bad thing. I think sometimes not enough structure, causes me to like drop balls. But I see this a lot, especially in, I was joking earlier about social media not being fun anymore. I mean, there's plenty of fun still to be had, but there is a lot of there's a lot of structure that I see in people that I know. Sometimes they're close friends of mine. Sometimes they're more just, people that I have seen around or maybe I've only met once type thing. But you see it a lot. Somebody plans a party and let's say it's you, Heather, and you say, all right, 10 of my best friends are coming to my party and we're going to, have this like fun curated dinner and it's going to start at this time. And here are the people that I'm inviting and there's only room for 10. So like no plus ones, it's like, fine, great. And then, but like, depending on the person that you are, you might also like create a spreadsheet. So like everyone has each other's contacts, and like sort of
Yeah.
like, and maybe, and where you're coming from and, and here's the address
Oh,
and
I
all these
know. I
things.
know a lot of spreadsheet people.
Yeah. And like all of that stuff is always, I find it sort of like chuckle amusing, but also very helpful because I'm
Absolutely.
not
Yeah.
really that person. Like I'm just not the person who's going to go that extra mile. I mean,
Yeah.
unless I was like planning like, or a once or twice or three times in a lifetime event type thing. Otherwise, I'd just be like, just show up, if you want to. Like that's more my MO. But there's no right or wrong here, but it does it kind of made me laugh a little bit about the fact that, well, I mean, what I'm laughing at is that there is no right or wrong here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you don't want to just be like, oh, I have no plan, so you're just like a shit show all the time and like everyone's annoyed with you. Like that's no good. But like if you're too alpha, then
Yeah.
everyone kind of goes behind your back like, dang, can't they just chill out a little bit? Like what in the heck is going on with all these spreadsheets? And like follow up emails and like maybe even a website. Like who knows?
A website.
And yeah, like I don't know what the answer is, but I find it it's a fascinating anthropological study.
Oh, it totally is. And I know people like that who, I did recently do like a kind of a group weekend up at my house, and someone did urge me to make a spreadsheet. And I was like, really? This is supposed to be fun. Like, I don't, I mean, I associate spreadsheets with um, work and work. So the last thing I
Right.
want to do when I'm doing something social is a spreadsheet, but it does help. In fact, we had a spreadsheet for this trip. I mean, it wasn't very complicated, but we kind of had to break some things down, and it does help certain cases. But yeah, it is really funny the range of yeah from alpha to beta or all the in betweens.
Yeah, alpha to I don't know zeta,
Yeah, maybe
whatever the other
zeta.
one is
Yeah,
at the other end.
totally.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, a friend of mine is getting married in a few months,
Hmm.
and she is a extremely organized person. I
Hmm.
would say the height of structure, not in an annoying way, just like that's just the
Who
person that
she
she
is.
is.
Yep.
And that has been extremely helpful to me. I mean, I know more about this wedding than I could possibly know. And,
And you
it's
like
still like,
knowledge.
yeah, I totally do. I love that. I love that. But you kind
Sorry,
of
I
have to
had
have
to
it.
open my black cherry Waterloo. I'm thirsty.
it's,
Carry
it's
on.
fine. I didn't think you were like choking or anything. Black cherry Waterloo sounds pretty good, but yeah, it's. I think it's a great skill to have a lot of structure. Sometimes though, I feel like it comes out in funny ways.
It
Now,
does.
planning your own wedding is not one of those situations. Obviously, it's like,
Hmm.
dude, you got to do it, or
Yeah.
like everyone's going to be wandering around asking you questions day of. But when it comes to like, so sort of like a WhatsApp group, like, here's our intention of this
Hmm.
group. You have been cordially invited, and here are the things that you need to do in order to stay in good graces with this group. It's like, oh, get the fuck out of here.
It's really funny because just like yesterday or the day before, so I have like splinter groups with this one group, and so there's like little groups that are smaller groups
Uh
from
huh.
within the big group. And because the big chat is like 12 people and it kind of overwhelms me. And I tend to stay out of that a lot, but it's
Yeah,
constantly
huh.
going. It's like, it's just, has a life. It has a
It's
life
a
of its own.
machine. It's it's sentient.
It's sentient. And then, but then there'll be a splinter group that like I just got added to one that was the polar opposite of what you're talking about. It was just like about cats, super cash, like very just like no, there is no obligation here at all whatsoever. And I was like, yes, oh, I love this. And then I've got my, you know, I've got a bunch of little groups that are, some are more demanding than others, but yeah, it is a funny conversation that we should come back to. There's a lot
Yeah,
to unpack
yeah.
there.
There definitely is. Yeah.
I use this expression quite a bit. I really like the idea of this. This is just like the idea of like the power of suggestion, and I use it a lot when I am explaining. I don't know, movies, and I mean, there's certain things I recall using this expression a lot to refer to, but this is something I thought about before my trip, and I did bring it up on the show when I was preparing mentally for this trip, because as we said, going away for 2 weeks when you have a business to run and there's a lot of responsibility and you have to do a lot of prepping, and I had to kind of, I did a lot of mental, not a lot, but just like throughout the day, I'd just be like, okay, so you know, things are going to happen. You're going to be out of your comfort zone, and just you keep your chill. And I told myself, I said, you know, you, I'm talking to you, um, you know, learn, they take the time on this trip to get back into the moment. Not that I'm not in the moment, but like, it was sort of like not a New Year's resolution, but it was something that I wanted to work on this trip, be constructive about. So I told myself, self, try to be in the moment as much as possible, even when shit hits the fan. Let things roll off your back, like, and I did. And I really think that the power of suggestion, which is kind of the idea of, you can do it to yourself and you can do it to other people, is sort of this, kind of influencing something to happen by talking about it, or like sort of realizing it, And so I kind of was
Mm-hmm.
building myself up for, okay, like things are going to happen that are going to be uncomfortable or whatnot. So just take this time, like as a monk would do, like practice being zen, in the moment. And I did. And there were lots of occasions where I had to like, okay, what do we do now? Like, let's keep her calm, and figure this out, and don't get too upset about it, that kind of thing. And I really, I'm proud of myself. It's weird. It's like I was very aware of the fact that my power of suggestion that I did before I left did help. And I feel like I'm kind of on another level with practicing being in the moment, because I can be impatient and I can like want to move on to the next thing. And I learned things about myself, or I was reminded about things about myself. And I didn't give myself enough credit. I really realized how tough and resilient I am. And that, you get in these comfort zones in your routine and in your home life, and you forget what it's like being on the road and being uncomfortable and being thrown into the mix, and
Mm-hmm.
it was really interesting. I feel like empowered in a way a little bit, because it reminded me of like who I am at the core, and it just felt really cool to tap into that again. So if any of y'all out there feel like you have to, I mean, I would think we all have things that we have to remind ourselves and help pump ourselves up for, various things. The power of suggestion is quite powerful. So I don't know, email us if you have thoughts on this. hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
Indeed. Yes. What have you suggested to yourself that has worked? We would
What
like to
hasn't
know.
worked? Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, doesn't
right.
always
I know.
work.
I'm like, power of suggestion. Will win the lottery. Will win the lottery. Hasn't happened yet, Heather. I also don't play. But boy, do my neighbors play the lotto. I'll
Really?
tell you.
How do you know that?
Oh, yeah. How do I know? Because they
Yeah.
buy tickets in front of me at Sam's Market.
Mm. Got it.
No, lotto people are lotto people.
No, they
It's
are. I
kind of
know.
like, it's you got a couple extra bucks, and it's like, why not?
Hmm.
Like, I might win $15 billion today. I mean, you won't, but you don't have a 0% chance.
Hmm.
You have an almost 0% chance,
Yep.
but it's not exactly zero. I don't know. The lotto that's my dad used to play the lotto. So, I mean, I'm familiar with the lotto.
I occasionally will
But
buy a
I
ticket,
don't.
but very occasionally. I'm just not a gambler. I don't like to
I'm
throw
not
money
either.
away. I don't know. I don't know. But
No, I know. I'm missing the gene. I don't. I do. I will not become a gambling addict, which is a good thing.
it is.
I don't want to do that. Not
Chips and
that
salsa
anybody who plays the
addict, on the
lotto is
other
a
hand.
gambling addict, but I'm missing the chip in my brain where this is fun. It
Yeah,
just isn't fun to me.
I do think it's
I'm
a
just
chip.
like, oh, I just could have like set the money on fire in my backyard,
And that's
but
okay. There's more time for other activities. You can't love everything.
you definitely can't, but you can love being one of
Us.
our patrons because we certainly love you being one of our patrons. If you're listening to the show and it's the free version, then you're not a patron, but you could be one. And becoming a patron, by the way, patreon.com/have such a good day is where you can find out more about directly supporting the show as a patron. Ad-free versions of the show. We never want to make anybody pay for this, but you will hear ads otherwise, and that might be fine with you if you say, I'd like to, kick a little back to Heather and Sarah for doing the good work that they do. That is
Saving the
how.
world.
Yeah, exactly. Saving the world one day at a time. That's what we do. But Patreon is where we have a community of folks who directly support us, and we really, really appreciate that. For everybody who already does, if you're on the fence, give it a look, see if it works for you. One of the fun things we always tell people about is our Discord. If you can part with $5 a month, or at any point, but $5 minimum, you can join our Discord and chat with us. We're on the back channel with some of the fine folks who have been with us from the very beginning, and ways in between. And we love y'all, and we really, really appreciate your support. And, if you have any ideas for, Heather and I are always threatening to go back to Patreon and like figure out
We're
our
full
new
of threats.
tiers. And it's, it's a new year. I'm sick. We're going to get back onto like some sort of like normalized plane
Yeah, we are.
over the next month or so. And then let's talk. But if you have any ideas in the meantime, we'd love to hear them. And a good way to get a hold of us is hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
Yeah, and power of suggestion. Become a patron. Become a
That's right.
patron. Become
I'm
a patron.
suggesting.
Get in our Discord. It's been a bit crickets in our Discord the last few weeks. Holidays, a little bit. I'm traveling. There's a lot going on in our lives. It happens. It's like anything. Things come and go. Things ebb and flow. But yeah. So
Very
let's.
poetic of you.
Sarah, it's always so great to see you.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. I love it. Like I love it. It's like this is like the end of an Oprah interview. Sarah, it's so good to see you.
It's
As
been wonderful.
always.
It's been what we have to get.
Yeah.
We gotta get coffee.
We really,
sometime.
we
Gotta get
really
a drink.
unpacked some things today. It has been fun.
There's a lot of other things I want to unpack next time, so I will write myself a note and try to remember it for next week. But in the meantime, before we unpack more things, I will be Heather.
You will be Heather, and I will be Sarah forever. Yeah. Have such a good day.
Thanks.